Okay.
I'm not, I can't. Can I help you? Oh, no, I just wasn't gonna.
All right. Todd, you here? Great, thanks, brother. All right. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Xenia City Council, August 22nd. And let's go ahead and stand, and we're going to start with the word of prayer. Todd Martin from Liberty Worship is going to come and lead us in that.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight because we care about our city. We offer this prayer in faith that you are here with us tonight. I pray over the business that's before us, the agenda items, the decisions that will be made tonight. I pray that this evening that you would just provide wisdom to our city council and the staff. I pray you would protect our first responders and our schools. And I pray you would protect our citizens as we unify together. Lastly, I pray for comfort for our mayor and our family as they navigate this time of loss. And we appreciate them. And Lord, let everything we do tonight glorify your great name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thanks, Todd. If you please remain standing, face the American flag. Councilman Crawford will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Go ahead and call our meeting to order. This time, let's go ahead and have roll call.
Vice President Smith?
Here.
Councilman Crawford?
Here.
Councilwoman Cerise?
Here.
Councilman Reynolds?
Here.
Councilman Dean?
here.
Mayor Mays?
Here.
President Urschel?
Here. Great. We have two sets of minutes to approve. The first is the minutes of our August 8th, 2024 regular meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Reynolds. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Crawford. Any questions or comments on that before we vote? Okay, let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Crawford?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cerise?
Aye.
Councilman Reynolds?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Abstain.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, next item is our minutes of our August 15th special meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Reynolds. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Second by the Vice President. Any comments or questions before we vote? All right, let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Crawford?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cerise?
Abstain, I was absent, thank you.
Councilman Reynolds?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you so much. We do not have any special presentations for this evening. Next item on our agenda is audience comments, and as the Vice President mentioned, if you'd like to come and address the council, feel free to come up to the podium, state your name and address. You have 3 to 5 minutes. Realize this is not an interactive time. This is an opportunity for you to present your concerns or comments to the council, and we'll have an opportunity to respond back at the end of the of our meeting during our council comments.
Yeah, I'm Jim Puckett. I live on Morningside Drive, been here 7 years now. Obviously very close to the hospital. I walk out the door, I see the ER every day. Obviously concerned about what I've been seeing when we moved here. Was aware that there was levies that were passed for the Kettering to run, maintain. Has been concerned because I heard they'd already take away the maternity ward. The cancer was soon go. When the ICU left, I knew that we were in serious trouble. And that concerns me, because if that building sits empty within eyeshot, my property value is going to go down. It's going to become an issue. We already had the nursing home down the street on North Monroe that was overrun with the homeless. My daughter worked across the street, and they had stuff in there, and she talked about how they would run in there to get the stuff from the other facility and run out, because sometimes they would come in contact with people that really shouldn't be there. So I'm obviously concerned about what's going on. I realize Kettering is a multi-billionaire facility, that fighting it with Xenia could be expensive and maybe not in the long run winnable for financial reasons. and that's why I'm asking council to come up with a plan to really deal with it quickly. Before we moved here, I heard about the city center and the plans for it, and I know it dragged and dragged. You tore down Kmart, then you tore down the grocery store. You see piles of dirt come in, the hotels in foreclosure, and I get all that. I don't have a problem with that, but it seems like, and I've been in school administration, I've been a coach, and there's a time to put your foot down, make a decision, and live with it versus stand around expecting approval, expecting others to make the decision for you. Sometimes you just gotta make it yourself, and it may not be popular, but you gotta live with it. And to not make a decision, to have that building deteriorate, is unacceptable. It'll be hard for us to continue to live here if that place just becomes a waste. So I implore you to do what you can with Kettering. I think there is some things that bother me, that wording is some of the issues, I guess, of maintenance. Is it maintenance of the facility? Is it maintenance of what the services are? I think it needs to be both. I think anything less than that is not being honest with the taxpayers. When you see Soyan add on huge wings while, they do nothing with Memorial Hospital at a time where decisions should be made that maybe it should be torn down. It's probably not feasible to put the money into it. I get that. But we need to, if you want to keep people like me in this community, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be upset around there if something isn't decisive done quickly and in the best interest of the community that lives right around there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come and address the council at this time? Okay, go ahead.
I got a message from someone. Can I read that in a minute?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, great.
This is a message from that the Vice President received. You
Right.
Read into the.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So we get emails from people, we read into the record. This was a message someone sent me. Angela Quinlan, she's writing a letter, mentioned she spoke to the finance director. Right now, there's no provision in our policies for citizens that live on Springfield Pike or Hedges Road. So the charges on the bill for curb and gutters, and she feels that that's not necessary because she doesn't get leaf pickup or snow removal or street sweeping. Those items are all the items that the utility bill told us that we're being charged for. She said she doesn't understand when you drive in the city of Xenia why that is, because she knows we benefit from that. The city taxes that she pays should cover, and even though it's only a matter of $250 a year, she feels it's unfair, and she receives zero benefit, and she is at 934 Hedges. So I told her I would read that into the record.
Sure.
We could talk about it, and we would address her concern possibly.
Great. Let's handle that during council comments.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wes. Sure. Any other items from other folks that you received? Did we get any emails in? Okay, great. All right. That'll go ahead and conclude our audience comments. We have no old business to conduct at this time, and so we move on to new business. First item is ordinance 2024-19. This is an emergency. This is instituting a moratorium on the establishment or commencement of freestanding emergency room facilities within the city of Xenia and declaring an emergency. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Recent developments have brought to our attention the fact that significant changes in the healthcare landscape are emerging, and that from a physical plant perspective, how services are rendered locally will differ moving forward in terms of the types and locations of facilities where healthcare can be provided. Specifically, it's noted that our land development code, when updated a number of years ago, did not anticipate the growing trend of special purpose medical facilities like standalone emergency rooms. Simply put, our zoning does not identify this unique use, which brings a unique set of conditions with it that could present some adverse effects on neighboring properties. Presently, our land development code defines and regulates hospitals and outpatient healthcare facilities, but it does not define or regulate freestanding emergency room facilities. Such emergency room facilities are unique for a number of reasons, including their 24/7 operation, noise from sirens, traffic volume created, and concerns with incorporation of things like landing zones for medical evacuation. The city is taking into consideration these various factors in the midst of a really rapidly changing environment. We feel that there needs to be time to evaluate our existing code and determine whether or not some changes in the code would be appropriate to protect the best interests of the community. As such, we believe the establishment of a brief moratorium on the development of standalone freestanding emergency room facilities is necessary. We would maintain the status quo during that period, as we would seek to evaluate options and then come back to council with some recommendations on changes to our code. To be clear, it's not that we are intending to block these types of facilities. That's not the intent, but that their location and conditions associated with where they would develop would be evaluated and potentially have some conditions established to ensure just a good environment where these facilities would be located. So we're recommending emergency passage of ordinance 2024-19 this evening that would authorize that moratorium for a 60-day period.
Great, thank you. And I'll just ask, I'm going to make a couple statements and confirm or deny here, Madam Law Director, if I'm getting this straight. This is an emergency ordinance per our city charter. This would extend for 60 days only, and at the end of that time period, it would expire. Is that correct?
As an emergency ordinance, it would automatically expire as of the 61st day.
61st day.
So this moratorium under this ordinance would run until October 22nd.
Correct, and require 5 votes for passage for tonight. Okay.
Now, if something would happen, if Planning Commission would feel they need more time, council can pass another emergency ordinance. You can't extend this one, but you could do another one if needed.
Correct. Or could we do a regular ordinance within the time frame as well? Okay, great, good.
Yeah, the major issue is just as the city manager said, we do not address this type of use in our zoning code at all.
Right.
We have no regulations. So we need to address that, look at these and see what proper regulations would be and get those in place.
Right.
I might add, there are some other things that we have literally been in conversation in the recent weeks. Just as our culture, as industries and businesses evolve, there are different types of unique uses that continue to evolve. And so this won't be the last sort of adjustment to our land development code that I think will be bringing back some recommendations to council, probably even before the end of the year. Again, we want to be welcoming to different types of enterprises in our community, but we want those enterprises to locate in spaces and in an environment that is conducive to all kinds of uses around it. So,
Great. All right. Do I have a motion for approval of this ordinance?
Mr. President, move to introduce ordinance 2024-19.
All right, this will be a motion for approval, not
Motion
introduction.
for approval.
Yes. Great, okay. Moved by Councilman Reynolds. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, second by Councilman Crawford. Any questions or comments before we vote? Okay, let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reese.
Aye.
Councilman Reynolds.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Urschel.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item is ordinance 2024-20. This will be an introduction. This is amending section 886.03 titled Tax Exemptions in Community Reinvestment Areas of the City of Xenia Code. Mr. City Manager.
thank you, sir. In evaluating the application of various economic development tools available to the city for projects currently being considered for our community, staff has identified some opportunities to make improvements to such local programs to maximize their effectiveness. One such program is a commonly used tool known as a Community Reinvestment Area, or a CRA. A CRA provides a property tax abatement on the improved value of land. While this does not provide direct cash equity into a project, it does serve to fix the cost of property taxes for a period of time, thus allowing the owner to utilize the funds that would otherwise go towards taxes to offset cost of the improvements. Given some of the enduring market challenges in Xenia, this tool is really an essential element of what we think will help us to leverage opportunities with the number of projects that we currently have in our queue. Staff is recommending an amendment to this process. That's essentially what we're recommending is an amendment to the CRA application process. This would be done through the introduction of and ultimately the passage of Ordinance 2024-20. This evening we're recommending introduction of that and be happy to answer any questions.
So before we move for introduction, any questions or comments for the city manager? Do I have a motion of introduction?
I'll introduce that.
All right, introduced by the mayor. So those of you in the audience, the standard operation for an ordinance is that we introduce at a meeting, and then the next meeting, we will go ahead and vote on that. So we'll be voting at our next meeting. Next item is Resolution 2024-050, approving an addendum to the full-service lighting agreement with Miami Valley Lighting, LLC. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. On December 29th of 2015, the city entered into a 10-year full-service lighting agreement with Miami Valley Lighting, which established construction cost and monthly fees for the lighting of city rights-of-way and other publicly owned properties. As council is aware, there are approximately 170 street lights that, for one reason or another, were not included in the current lighting agreement, nor any prior lighting agreements. These include many of the decorative lighting fixtures in our downtown area, over at Xenia Station, Shawnee Park, and so forth. As council is also aware, the city received a Brightening Ohio grant earlier this year to replace many street lights, poles, and fixtures that are no longer manufactured and or are out of date for service. Namely, these are lights on East Church Street, East Market Street, East 2nd Street, West 2nd Street, and West 3rd Street. Also recall that many of the poles and fixtures on these streets are not currently owned by Miami Valley Lighting. In order to replace these street lights with the desired Tier 2 heritage fixture on a 12-foot Manchester pole, which are not included in the current agreement with MVL, there would need to be an amendment to the arrangement that we have with Miami Valley Lighting. The charges that we have that we assess pursuant to Appendix A of the current agreement would need to be updated. So the proposed addendum to the current full-service lighting agreement with Miami Valley Lighting will establish these new monthly fees for these poles. As the city ultimately intends to divest itself of any streetlight responsibility in terms of direct maintenance of these features, we're recommending council approve the addendum as we've presented this evening. And again, this is helping to bring to completion council's stated goal of trying to divest of responsibility for these lights.
Great, thank you. Do I have a motion of approval?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Crawford, Reynolds, excuse me. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Faith? Sure, thanks.
Sorry.
Questions or comments before we vote? Well, I just want to say, Brent, thanks to the staff for moving on this, that even though I know that there was a time when those decorative poles were put in to the historic district and but the fact we can't maintain them, we can't get the not only the stands, but also the filaments and all the rest of the items. Getting this all under the common lighting district is really going to be a benefit to all of us here. And I know there's been a number of folks that live in those areas that have been awaiting this for a while. So kudos to you guys for getting this together for us. I just mentioned to the mayor that I believe she has the right to vote, but since she lives in this district, she's going to go ahead and abstain from voting just to maintain the appearance of impartiality as well. Not only
That's fine. We'll keep the light in front of her house the same.
Okay, we'll leave that one alone.
The broken one.
The broken one can stay right there. That's right.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reese.
Aye.
Councilman Reynolds.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Same.
President Urschel.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you so much. All right, next item is Resolution 2024-051, authorizing the execution of a fire and EMS service agreement with Central State University for the provision of city fire and EMS services. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you again, sir. The city's provided emergency medical and firefighting services to Central State University since 2012. The parties to the agreement have subsequently executed extensions of the contract for continuation of services periodically. The most recent agreement expired in June of this year. After some attempts to talk about the long-term arrangement with this, we've arrived at the conclusion that it's best to go ahead and seek an extension of this arrangement through the execution of a new agreement. The law directors drafted a contract that places an automatic extension clause in the contract, so we won't have to necessarily come back. But in consideration of that, the new contract includes a 5% increase for the initial contract, as well as a 5% increase for each year the contract is extended. And the intent with including that increase is frankly just to cover our additional costs, fuel, staffing, everything costs more, and so we're trying to make sure that we recoup that. We've provided that agreement as part of the agenda packet. We're recommending Resolution 2024-051 this evening. Authorize us to engage Central State and hopefully get that executed.
All right. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Dean. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Crawford. Any questions or comments to the city manager before we vote? Okay, let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Crawford?
Aye.
Councilwoman Surrice?
Aye.
Councilman Reynolds?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item is a procedural motion. This is approving the city council priorities for fiscal year 2025. And we've had an opportunity to look at these in work sessions, and we introduced this at our last meeting. Once again, I think this is a fairly robust set of priorities for us as not only council, but also for city staff to be working on in the next year. Once again, these are beyond just budget items. Many of these have to do with relationships with other organizations and entities in the council, and the way that we'll be servicing our community. So there's a number of items with economic development, parks and recreation, public infrastructure, financing, public safety and health, and community relations, and also municipal services. So can I have a motion for approval of these?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by the Vice President. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Reynolds. Any questions or comments before we take the vote on this? All right, let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Crawford?
Aye.
Councilwoman Surrice?
Aye.
Councilman Reynolds?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item is our appointed officials reports. We'll start with the Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. I will address just real quickly the email from Ms. Quinlan. I did have a chance to talk to her. I've talked to some other customers who are in a similar situation, and I am sympathetic. We do have a number of customers who are receiving bills for the first time, and we did our best to try to do some outreach, notes on bills, inserts in utility bills, emails, those types of things. But for customers who weren't receiving a bill previously because they didn't have water or sewer service,
Right.
It was a bit of a surprise if they didn't see some of the communication on social media and the different outreaches that we tried to use to communicate those changes. The program, specifically stormwater, is designed in a way to treat all residential units the same within the city. And so there's a flat fee of $4.75 charged to each resident throughout the city. And that's regardless of the circumstances of that particular residence. So we don't go out and look at the size of the house or the size of the driveway and impervious surface on each residential lot and determine what their contribution is to the stormwater system. This program is designed to treat every resident throughout the city in the same way and charging them. And so for people who feel like they aren't using the stormwater system to the same extent as someone else in the community, I can see how they would think that that's unfair or not the right approach. But it's simply not practical to evaluate the contribution that each and every residential home in our community makes or has on the stormwater system. So there's a standard process for evaluating that fee. And I would also say that for many of our residents who have been paying that fee for many years now, they understand that it's a utility. And when there's a city utility, it doesn't necessarily mean that the storm sewer or the sanitary sewer or the water line right in front of your house on your street is what's being repaired at that particular point in time. And so when we're making improvements to the stormwater system, it's throughout the entire city for the good of the entire community, trying to properly convey stormwater away from properties. And so I understand that there are, a number of residents in different areas who may have maybe contributing to the stormwater system at different levels, and yet we still are trying to treat everyone the same, looking at the systems throughout the city that require the most attention and investing there. So there are a whole lot of residents throughout the city in different situations whose streets may not be receiving specific attention on stormwater or curb and gutters like there are in other areas, but we're trying to treat everybody the same throughout the city. So I am sympathetic to them. I understand where they're coming from, and yet, my recommendation is that we are consistent in the way that we're applying this to residents throughout the city. Certainly, if council has a desire to reevaluate the program, we certainly can do that. But by design, the system is meant to treat every residential property in the same way, regardless. So there are a handful of properties who are on well and septic who are getting a bill for the first time. We talked to council about a number of property owners who are going to, who own vacant lots throughout the city, who are getting bills for the first time. There are, I don't even know how many are on well or septic. It's a pretty small number. I mean, we might be talking about 10 to 12, something like that, who are receiving a bill for the first time as well. And we're trying to work through with some of those property owners also. We're realizing things like they didn't receive trash service from the city before and probably should have by code. And so we're trying to make those changes, implement that, provide the sanitation service because they're saying, hey, we're not receiving the service. Well, let us provide the service. Hopefully it's a little bit cheaper than what they were paying individually to Rumpke Waste Management. And I know, in one property owner I was talking to, overall it's going to just about offset the curb and gutter and storm water fee as well when you look at what they were paying for trash and what they're going to be paying for trash under our plan. So it's something that we've talked to a number of residents about. It's a valid concern. I understand where they're coming from, but my recommendation would be to stay the course and treat every residential unit within the city in the same way. But again, that's ultimately your call, and if you have a desire that we go back and reevaluate that, then we certainly can.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions for the finance director at this time? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Ryan.
Sure. Madam Law Director.
I have nothing further unless council has any questions for me.
I took an action last time to talk to David Graham about those properties.
The auditor sales?
Correct, and I have not accomplished that. So I wanted to apologize to staff because I signed up to do that. So hopefully before our next meeting that will happen. And Danette, you'd asked for you and I to get together, so I'd like to attempt to do that next week.
Yeah, I'd just like to walk through the process with you
Right.
and show you what the ORC says before you talk to him. But
Right.
we do need those sales to start happening.
Correct. So, okay, thank you. Any other questions for the Law Director? Okay. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. I do have a number of project updates, but I'll save those for our later sessions this evening. I do have a couple of reminders, though. It looks like I think, are going to have enough council members to be able to do a special session on the 5th. We do have a couple business items. Just be those items. It won't be a normal, regular, full session. I think we have enough, correct, Madam Clerk? So, again, September 5th, Michelle will send out that agenda at the appropriate time. And also, we want to remind our public that because we have an extra week between this meeting and our next meeting in September, that we're at the threshold of fall, and Labor Day will be here. So we will be closed Monday, September 2nd for Labor Day. So we ask folks that may have this business with the city to adjust accordingly. And with that, that is all I have.
Okay, thank you. questions for the city manager? Okay. Let's go to council comments and reports. Let's start with Councilwoman Cerise.
I don't have anything to add tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Reynolds.
Not to echo the last three, but I have nothing to add tonight.
Councilman Dean.
I don't have anything to add either.
Okay.
Me.
James.
Just
Councilman Crawford.
I want to thank the staff in its entirety for putting together a plan for better utilization of our Xenia station, which is basically they found a supportive business for bike riders and for just public use. And there's going to be a coffee shop there. The name of the shop will be disclosed later, but excited for that new adventure as well. And also in our property management committee discussion, we talked about the idea of improving Shawnee Park recreation. So, which is an update and an upgrade to what's there. I believe it's been 20 years since the last upgrade. Is that correct?
We've done phase 1 to the playground. This would be phase 2 that
Phase 2.
had discussed with council and had
Right.
kind of delayed, but that is in the budget this year, so we presented that.
Okay, very nice. And then I had the privilege of attending a HUD meeting for housing providers for the local area as well as statewide, and there was a discussion that basically HUD is backing off some of their funding for some of the subsidized housing by which they're doing. And in respect to all that, we don't expect a lot of changes, but there may be some adjustments to some of these crazy rents, some of the, or I should say the higher rents that were done through the COVID, because of the COVID, the lack of inventory that was there. A lot of owners, some owners, did quite well. And what that means is there may be some adjustments coming for people who currently are in the business. And anyway, this is statewide, so we'll see where that lands. But that's about all I have.
Thanks, James.
You're welcome.
Mr. Vice President.
All right, thank you very much. Just thank those that are in the audience tonight for your time, your concerns. Appreciate that. And we share the same concerns that you do. And at this time, that's all I have.
Okay. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I do want to thank Mr. Puckett. Thank you for coming tonight and speaking. And I don't want to speak for everyone, but for myself, I do want to say thank you. And I share many of your concerns, so thank you for speaking up and allowing us to hear your perspective. On the 14th, I attended a ribbon cutting for New Age Equipment. They've actually been in the industrial park for probably almost a year, but they are at a point where they've redone their whole building. Their business is booming. They're very successful, and I just wanted to give an official congratulations and welcome to the community. On the 18th, we had the community worship service at Shawnee Park. I'll let you speak a little more to that, but probably about 1,000 people there. Just an incredible time with 15 different churches coming together, and it was just a great time for fellowship, beautiful worship, and I know a lot of pastors put a lot of effort into that, and I wanted to publicly thank them. I did want to specifically give a shout out to New Community Church and the addition and their donation of the Gaga Ball Pit. Much to my chagrin, because now we're at the park all the time. Every evening my kids want to walk down there and play, but what a fantastic addition for some of those in-between kids that aren't really interested in playground equipment anymore, but they're not big kids, and it's just every time that we walk down there, there's kids playing there. It's been a lot of fun. Parents, we've met new families down there, so just very appreciative of that. And I did want to touch on, without getting too emotional, just our recent loss as a family, and I wanted to publicly take a minute to thank a few people that are specific to our city. I wanted to thank Officer Kelly and Officer Pearson and Officer Linnell for being at our house, my mom's house, very quickly. I wanted to specifically mention Officer Linnell and thank him publicly for his demeanor in a very difficult and upsetting situation, and he was very comforting, very professional, very genuine, and it meant a lot to our family. I wanted to thank our Xenia Fire Department and EMS and their quick response and care for our family. And I want to thank Chief Rigsby because he's sitting here too.
Yeah.
So when we got a call, thank you for following me and making sure I was safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of people that work at our city, who care deeply and make sure that we're okay. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Sarah. Just like to comment on our community worship service. I want to thank Pastor Chaz from Home Church and Pastor John Freeman from the African American Ministerial Alliance, Pastor Bill Schwoko from the Ministry Association of Xenia, and everyone who participated on Sunday. Pastor Chaz had an idea 3 years ago about getting us together for a community worship. And so he just went out and started knocking on doors of other churches and saying, hey, how about let's go? And they said, sure, we'll mention it to our congregations. He said, no, how about let's actually all go and be there together. And I think we had 15 different churches participating this last Sunday. It was about 1,300 folks out there. I want to also thank our previous mayor, Marcia Bayless, for the combined choir from the AME Church and from Pastor Schwoko's church that were there, the worship team that was there as well from Home Church, and it was just an amazing time to be together and worship God together, be in awe of His majesty and grace on us, and do that as a community. And just a very, I want to thank our maintenance folks that were there early to get the park set up at 6 a.m. for us so we could start bringing the chairs in and do those types of things. And I know we had, I want to thank the police staff that were there too. Really, we had no issues at all. But it was just a wonderful time to get together as a community. So once again, looking for more of these activities where we can come together. I'd say I had a couple comments for some folks about there's roughly, I think we have about 11,000 residences here in the city, and there's going to be some peculiar situations. We have a number of folks that live on the periphery, on the outside of the city, and that's an interesting place to be because you sort of live as a township member and as a city member, and sometimes you feel like you're in the township even though you're in the city because you may not be participating in many city services. And one individual also mentioned to me, he says, well, you don't do anything for my roads, that's a township road. You know, they're taking care of snow removal and they're paving it, and why am I being billed for these things? And I think my comment back to them is, well, are you paying any taxes to the township for all those services that they're providing to you? Because it sounds to me like you're not paying anybody for those services at this time. The reality is we have those, we have touch points with the township. We have some collaboration between our maintenance folks and the township maintenance folks, and there's times when we maintain those roads and provide those services, and there's majority of township residences, and sometimes the township does that for us. So, part of being in a city is that you're participating with the rest of the folks in the city. And we don't have a scorecard, a bingo sheet of services that you would like to have, and you're going to check those things off. We don't get an opportunity to go back to the school board and say, hey, for that 67% of the property taxes I'm paying to the school, I actually don't have any kids, so I prefer not to pay any property taxes, right? Because I'm not getting any services. And so what you're actually doing is you're supporting the community with those taxes. We don't go back to the county and for the other 20% of your property taxes and say, I don't really go over those bridges, so I don't know why I'm paying for the maintenance of the bridges, right? I mean, my route that I always take never goes over a bridge, right? I don't ever go to Job and Family Services. I never go to the family court. I never go to the Court of Appeals, so why would I pay for those things? But that's just part of our responsibility as citizens, that we have a communal burden and we participate communally with those activities. So I get it. If you've lived in those situations, I used to live in Miami Township. My family was there for a long time. And living in a township is a lot different than living in a city, but you get a lot less services too. So, part of being in the city is for a number of these services is that we participate together. And the reality is some of the lots that we've had have not participated in these things, and we've called all of us to go do this at this time. And it is a little bit of a shock at this point, but that's part of being in the municipality. Once again, you don't have to live in the municipality. You can live in the townships and have less services and have less fees probably in those situations as well too. I think we are trying to be sensitive for very specific peculiar scenarios, and Ryan, we've talked about those a number of times, and some staff that may be some things that the staff, we've given them the ability administratively to address some of those things, but we're not going to address everybody's issues. We just can't do that. There's just absolutely no way that we can craft a set of laws and a set of billing options for things that are going to be equitable from everybody's perspective. But part of this is just what happens as you live in a community there. So feel free though to continue to address your concerns to us, and we'll try and address those things on a case-by-case basis. But one thing Ryan didn't mention is that especially for stormwater, our stormwater system is desperately behind in maintenance and repair, and that will affect all of us if we have a flooding situation and we're flooding significant portions of the city. And folks are going to come back to the city and say, well, what the heck, city? You're supposed to be taking care of the flooding issues, right? And I get it. Every now and then we have this 100-year event. We've had them a couple times in Xenia. We may have them again, and we need to be prepared for those, and our stormwater system has to be there to take care of those situations. We have to get the water off of our roads, otherwise our roads deteriorate. And one of the major provisions for this was to have those that have large areas that are not permeable, and a lot of those are commercial industrial customers that were paying residential rates. Everybody paid the same rate before on parcels. And so we're asking those that are providing a lot more water into the system to be paying for that. Curbs and gutters, curbs and sidewalks, per the state law, those are not the city's responsibility. Those are the owners of the parcels have the responsibility of maintaining curbs and sidewalks, okay? And we've been given the authority by the state that if we go in and repair those things, that we can assess against that. Now, we could do that as an individual assessment. Up to this point, the city actually has been paying for the repairs of those as we've done the roads. And if you looked at what we pay for our a mile of road, a good portion of that is we're paying for curbs and sidewalks that should have been paid for by the individuals that had those parcels. So we discussed whether we would go ahead and do that on an individual basis. We could do that, but that would be a fairly large bill for you. We show up and we pave a road and we say your curb and your sidewalk are in disrepair, and we're going to go ahead and fix it and bill you directly. The other way to doing that is by doing a general assessment across the city, so that it's a lighter burden on all of us. There's pros and cons on all of those ways of doing that, but one of the things we are committed to is to getting our curbs and sidewalks back up and repair. We have streets that have no curbs. Not that they have never had curbs, but they've deteriorated over time and they've never been repaired, okay? And same way with sidewalks as well too. So we want to get those things back up in shape, and so that's going to be part of our communal effort there to address those things as well too. So that's all I have for comments this time, but feel free to contact any of us and discuss those items as you will. Now at this time, just so everyone knows, we have we always carry a space for an executive session, and we will be asking the council to approve us going into executive. After that, our second meeting of the month, we have a standard work session where we go over a number of items. The work session is open to the public. Anyone may attend that. That will be after the executive session. However, we'll be going into executive session first, and we're going to be going into executive session to discuss confidential business information related to requests for economic development assistance, and also looking at general legal advice from our law director, and also for the purchase and sale of property, and this is per the Ohio Revised Code, section 121, and also per our city charter as well too. So do I have a motion for moving to executive session?
I make a motion.
Motion by Councilman Reynolds.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Cerise. Any questions or comments before we call the vote? All right, let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Crawford?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cerise?
Aye.
Councilman Reynolds?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
That motion carries.
Great. All right, let's go ahead and go to the chambers here next for our executive session, and then at termination